What's going on, ambitious vet? Thanks for diving inside the trenches with us again this week as we seek to provide you the golden grenades you need to get yourself out of your own way. Also, fuel your desire to make an impact post-military. Also, this is going to be your podcast built by veterans, for veterans, as we dive inside the trenches with today's top subject matter experts, share inspiring transition stories, and provide masterclasses to equip you to reach your full potential. Bottom line is, this is your place to go after immediate transition education expires.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome right back to this week's episode of the Ambitious Vet Show. I'm your host, Chris Hoffman. I am a Marine Corps combat veteran who got out, had 5 different careers in 5 different industries before I started figuring out who the hell I was after selling Kirby vacuums door to door and eventually becoming a corporate mid-level manager and then getting fed up with the corporate world and then branching off and launching now this startup company, which has been really a pivotal moment for not only me and my family's life, but also for the veteran community as a whole. A lot of awesome stuff brewing up at AVN's headquarters, and just super excited to kind of continue to roll out just some good, big mega announcement on behalf of just the veteran community as a whole, that AVN is building up ammo inside our 50 cal to shoot down range and make sure that we're clearing out the enemy out in the marketplace, to making sure that you have a clear pathway to reaching your full potential. And one of the latest announcements was we're going to be a podium presenter at the Surf Conference in San Antonio, June 16th. I don't know if me personally, if I'm going to be able to make it, but one of our AVN team members will definitely be there. And we're just super excited to start educating federal level agencies and decision makers on what is actually missing as far as from a needs and wants and desire standpoint for the newest generation of veteran out there, the ambitious vet. The veteran like yourself who's listening to this, that's realizing that resume writing, interview prep, job fairs serves a purpose, but then you start realizing that, man, there's a deeper bullet wound, don't you? So super excited about that on June 16th. If you're around San Antonio or will be around San Antonio June 16th, make sure you go check out the Surf Conference. I'll have the link to register in the show notes, and make sure you if I'm not there, meet up with one of our team members there, and we'd be excited to meet you in person and see how we can support you and just build a relationship with you. So with that being said, this week we are going to be doing another solo masterclass. I'm super excited about this show. As I was waking up this morning, knowing that I was going to be creating this content, I was like, what is going to be the thing that I think would not only impact you inside this episode, but also where can I give you as far as next steps to continue to fuel your ambitions as far as other content that has been recorded over the past 4 years of this podcast that you can go and binge over the weekend while you're hiking, while you're in the gym, wherever it is that you go to reflect and just consume the content that's needed to help you continue to grow and think clear as you execute post-military. So today I'm going to kind of pretty much just curate some of the top 6 episodes from the Ambitious Vet Show over the past 4.5 years. I'm talking about episodes that are aligned with like personal branding, money, as it ties into personal finance and business finance, personal growth, how to own who you are. What I mean by that is like, how do you own your background, your ethnicity, your belief systems, and just be unapologetically yourself? And then lastly, resilience, both mentally and emotionally. And there really is a difference there. So first episode that, I put here at the top of the list, which is crazy because this episode number 1 of the Ambitious Vet Show continues to be one of the most listened to episodes to date. And it happened when I was in San Diego, single man, just trying to get this thing going and interviewing guests on my phone at probably 8 o'clock at night after a long day inside my full-time day job, and just grinding to figure out how do I grow something that makes a difference in the veteran community. And Daniel Kopp, Habits Around Money and Life. That episode is just an incredible episode, really tailored around financial and behavioral habits. One question I want you to ask yourself as you're going back and listening to this episode, if you're looking to up-level your habits and your overall money situation in your life, ask yourself this question as you're going into this episode to get the golden grenade you need to really break through to new limits of your life. Is what are the 2 seeds you need to be planting, not to be in the same position you are now next year at this time. So pretty much, what are the 2 seeds that Daniel shares that you could start planting right now, easy, with the resources, skills, and just who you are right now? No reading a book, no getting a certification in personal finance or whatever. What could you be planning right now to be in a better financial situation next year? Okay, that's the question I want you to be asking yourself if you're looking to kind of build better behavioral habits around personal finance. So that's going to be episode 1. Make sure you go check that out. Episode number 2, literally episode number 2 of the actual podcast, Living Your Brand with Sean Douglas. Still to this date, one of the most listened to episodes as well. Sean just does a great job as far as sharing really raw and authentic around one of the most darkest, just one of those coming to Jesus moments that I think a lot of us veterans unfortunately have to deal with when we get out of the military or stay in, or in his case, at this stage of his life, still in the military as a senior leader inside of his respected branch, and having to deal with those tormenting thoughts of like, should I just end it? So in this episode, if you resonate with someone like that, that has now since then become a TEDx speaker, retired from his respected military branch, and now is just killing it in business, I encourage you to go check out episode 2, Living Your Brand. But also, I want you to be asking yourself this question as you're consuming that content. Are your words and actions aligned with your core philosophies and promises you give to others? Sean does a great job unpackaging this. But again, ask yourself, is what you tell everyone in your life, friends and family, colleagues, and the actions that you're doing on a daily basis align with what you truly believe in? And also the promises that you're giving those people. Ask yourself that, answer that by the end of the show, and I promise you're going to have more clarity to break through new limits of just having people know what your consistent personal brand is and what they can count on you on. And when people can count on you on just being consistent with who you say you are and the promises you make, you're never going to have to worry about opportunity, I promise you. So that's going to be the second most listened to episode in the past 4.5 years. Now the third one, we're going to jump up to episode 12, Being Relentless with Jeff Banman. Jeff is a good friend of mine. We did some transformative work a few years back in one of the top 2% leadership programs in the transformative world, and just an amazing guy. This episode is really grounded in just resilience, right? Just does a great job opening his heart wide open on all his mistakes and just being authentic, right? Being real with what it takes to actually endure challenging times. And the coolest thing about this is he starts breaking down the it factor. And what he means by that, what are the it factor attributes tied into a Medal of Honor recipient that could be carried over towards enduring life adversity? Now, he wasn't a Medal of Honor recipient. However, he has been around and has a network, sphere of influence of Medal of Honor recipients. and he identified just it factors that attribute to them thriving in some of the most chaotic and adverse situations and circumstances post-military. And I encourage you to go figure out, what are those attributes, and how can you just start owning one to go out there and start enduring life's biggest adversity on a daily basis, weekly and monthly basis in your life. So what's going to be the fourth episode, most listened to on the Ambitious Vet show over the past 4.5 years? It's going to be episode 62. How do you go from shitbag to shit hot in life with Nate Schoemer? Now, this is still, to this day, Ambitious Vet, one of my most favorite episodes. And the reason being is Nate's a Marine Corps combat veteran who just does not take himself too serious or life, but also is constantly always investing in himself and trying to meet the next best version of himself. We geeked out on Tony Robbins, Darren Hardy, Brian Tracy, Grant Cardone content, and all that before the recording and during the recording. And I think you just will see the connection and the natural chemistry inside that episode from a listener standpoint. But really what Nate does a great job in here is some of his biggest learned lessons from being inside the shitbag platoon in Marine Corps boot camp to then getting out and being a successful American dog trainer, and also later being featured on Animal Planet on a show called Rescue Dog to Super Dog. And he shares one of his biggest personal growth learned lessons and shares practical tips on how to get ahead of not assuming things in life. Anytime you're in conversations on a daily basis, how often are you just assuming, oh, this person's like that? Or a circumstance, oh, this is going to be just like that. And you tie it back to a previous belief or an experience versus just exploring more, slowing down and just exploring and asking questions, and even asking yourself in circumstances, how could this be different than the past? What could I see here? And just how much that made a big difference for him. Again, that's episode 62, how to go from shitbag to shit hot in life with Nate Schoemer. Super exciting episode there. Now, the fifth episode, most listened to in the past 4.5 years on the Ambitious Vet show, is going to be Knowing What Drives Your Business with Scott Chesson, business finance episode. And I think this is, to this point, the only business finance episode that we've done, now going into 180 plus episodes. But Scott does a great job just talking about understanding the financial KPIs to know what's actually driving the needle forward inside of your business at any level or any stage of business that you're at. Startup, growth, where you're going to potentially get acquired, merge, or wherever. How do you start tracking the key things that are going to help you get to those different milestones of business, right? Also, he breaks down, why do potential accredited investors not always lean totally on profit as a core KPI to trigger then investment, right? So in other words, us as business owners, we're always looking at profit margins, right? And how can we continue to increase those numbers? And at the beginning stages, right, when you're looking for investor money, angel, VC, what other KPIs really trigger early stage investments from investors more than just profit? Because you may not always be profitable. Or if you're bragging that you're 80% profit margin month over month or over the past year, that may not always mean a good thing depending on how your operations look. So really awesome episode 134 with Scott Chesson. Make sure you go check that out if you're looking to get better at business finance inside your own business, or maybe you are a business analyst or business finance executive out there inside the private sector. It's definitely a good episode for you to consume. And now, last but not least, this episode, 121, diversity, unity, and being an original with Cornelius Maxwell, a really good friend of mine, African-American man that is just unapologetically who he is. This episode still month over month gets downloaded by over, last time I checked, over 100 people, which those of you guys that listen to this in podcasts are just like, well, I'm doing more than that. Well, 100 based on an episode that was probably close to a year ago, month over month, still downloads. I mean, that's pretty good for us. So we're excited about that. But he really does a great job around just talking about just this, what he spoke to Congress around transition units theory and some of the educational gaps within the educational transition system, which obviously I agree with coming from AVN, and that's one of the biggest things we're seeking to improve in the coming years is veteran programming, from the DOD, DOL, and Homeland Security sector. But also, he shares this book that he wrote around how African Americans can be unapologetically a man. And he quotes Martin Luther King Jr. and just an amazing episode for just how do we start becoming more empathetic with the needs of African American men and women out there and bring unity to it versus be tone deaf, in other words. So really challenging conversation for me. Obviously, we can all have biases inside of our head, which jumping to conclusions or assumptions, kind of like the previous episode I was talking about, but just really giving up knowing and really listen to Cornelius Maxwell's voice and his beliefs and kind of just what his view of the marketplace is and what's going on in the world was really enlightening, and I think it will be enlightening for you as well. Now, them are going to be the top 6 episodes that are the most listened to over the past 4.5 years, Ambitious Vet. I'll have all those links inside the show notes below. Now, you may be asking yourself, what's my goal with this, promoting the top 6 most listened to episodes? My goal here is to have you go and consume more content, obviously. But also, I want you to gain more of the golden grenades that you're going to need to continue to break the narrative of veterans, being seen as charity cases, right? These use cases out there from the corporate private sector world where veterans are better off seen, not heard, right? We want to break that narrative, and it starts with you consuming content that's going to really have you start asking yourself the difficult questions of like, who am I? What do I want? How do I execute on it? How do I build social support systems? How do I set goals and build the human capital towards achieving those? That's really the goal here, versus just coming from an entitled mindset and just thinking the world owes you something because you served, whatever that means, right? In your own capacity, right? So, Ambitious Vet, if this show and other shows in the past have really made a difference for you in your life, I just encourage you to share this on your social, share it with friends, family. Also, go to iTunes and make sure you're rating this thing. It takes less than 2 minutes. 2 minutes to go and rate and review. I know that anytime I'm listening to something that provides value for me, I always want to provide value back. An example of that is we have a grass service that's helping us get rid of these damn weeds out here in Texas in our new home. And right afterwards, the guy that was doing the treatment, he sent me a text message. Hey man, do you mind just writing a review on Google? The company will tip me an extra X amount of percent based on my hourly wage for today. And in the moment, I had tons of action items. I had these meetings I needed to go attend, and I was already frustrated with the amount of time that it took to walk him through where our sprinklers were and just where everything was in our yard to make sure what he was doing wasn't going to impact, everything going on in our yard. But I was like, you know what? That guy provided something that was extremely valuable to me. He even helped our sprinkler system get synced up where it needs to be as far as frequency during this time of year in Texas. And why not? And you know what, Ambitious Vet? It took me less than 2 minutes to go write a review on Google and say something just genuine about this guy who came and helped us out with the grass treatment. And I encourage you to go do the same. If you're listening to this show, it hits you, or if you think it would make a difference for friends and family, make sure you're at least rating and reviewing this, because when you do that, it allows us to reach more veterans. If we reach more veterans, we break this narrative quicker. When we break this narrative quicker, you start understanding how to reach your full potential post-military quicker. All right, Ambitious Vet, with that being said, until next week, hold the vision, and trust the process. Take care.
The Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.